Now we're hitting the last movement of Beethoven's Fifth, finally. Hopefully this will be a quick little video to get us to the end of the classical era module. So when we left off, we were going through that transition from the end of the third movement, which was the scherzo and trio, into the fourth and final movement. Basic info: key, C major, so the parallel major. Our form is sonata form again, just like the first movement. Make sure you take note of that. We're in sonata form, not sonata rondo form, which is what you would often see in the last movement of long form works. Our tempo is allegro, and our meter is 4/4, so no real surprises there. Here's our first theme. Take a close look and listen. We're really dealing with an outline tonic triad and a bunch of C major scales. We've moved from this tragic C minor of the first movement through the kind of tumultuous middle movements that flirt with major keys. Finally, we reach this triumphant C major. The trumpets really help with this sort of royal fanfare thing that we have going on here. Now in the bridge shown on screen, our brass of choice now goes to the French horns, who play this really long lyrical line which is pushing us from our home key of C major to the dominant key of G major. Now what you see on screen is the second theme, which brings back the Fate motif. We have these three shorts and one long again. This passage is marked by these subito, pianissimos, and fortissimos, and for the most part, the fortissimos line up with stepwise ascending figures, and the pianissimos with stepwise descending figures. And then we come to the codetta, so the end of the exposition. This is actually one of my favorite little licks in all of music. Here, the winds and violas take over, and the violins have these little flittering gestures riding above. Again, Beethoven doesn't have the greatest melodies, but he does do a lot with what he's got. Look at this melody. It's really just 4 descending notes. That's it. You might be able to sort of extract something of a Fate motif here with these 3/4 of the same pitch being the 3 shorts. And then you have that higher long note. And I've highlighted that for you in the red box. Now, there's a few things to look for throughout the rest of the piece. In the development, we're largely focused on the second theme material, and Beethoven uses imitation, inversions, expansions to milk every last drop out of what is really not much of a melody. Then, weirdly, near the end of the development, we get the scherzo theme played really softly in the winds and the strings that are using pits. So that's kind of a bizarre thing to pull a melody from another movement, but that sort of adds this whole cyclical structure idea that Beethoven's really exemplifying in this piece. Finally, we have a long dominant preparation that fixates on G and kind of meanders for a while just to get us ready for the recap. The recap is almost identical to the exposition, except we stay in C major the whole way this time. We don't modulate at all. In the coda, we get lots of piccolo, which is really whipping around above everyone else. Please mark that at measure 362, you have a Presto. And that brings the return of the codetta theme from the exposition, but it goes super fast. This Presto leads us into the end of the piece, which actually I kind of think is the weakest part of Beethoven's Fifth here. It kind of just drags on for a while. There's lots of 5-1, 5-1, 5-1, and then it ends, the entire piece ends with you getting smacked in the face by the tonic chord 8 times in a row. Like I said, I think this is really the only part of the piece that kind of drags on. It's sort of the last movement here, and I guess the symphony as a whole kind of has more endings than the Lord of the Rings. It just doesn't seem to stop. I love the piece, but I could really do without the last minute and a half. And on that note, which is, I don't know, maybe kind of a downer, that's it. We're done with the classical era, and now we're going to start up on the romantic era, which is where things start getting really, really fun.